All right, so let's once more take it from the top. Everything's good now. So 5,
Okay.
4, 3, 2, 1. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of the WarWolf Podcast. As usual, coming to you live. Here is Mike.
Ah, fuck you. You gotta say my name first? Fuck.
Of course. All right, then I guess here is Stoner. Say hello, Stoner.
Buenos mañana, motherfuckers.
And we have something slightly unusual for you. We have another guest who goes by the name of ShortStack on Twitter. Say hello, ShortStack.
Hello, I'm the bean that fell off the tortilla.
And as always, I am Dale. Now, then, back to you, Mike.
Yeah, okay, so... I'm not doing the whole fucking bit that I did initially because fucking mic issues. Fuck you, Dale. You're supposed to have this shit working.
We're in
Anyway,
Discord.
Yeah.
As I said before, it's shitty garbage it's shitty garbage bloated Pajitware. So blame the Indian programmer who's paid like 5 cents a day to make this shit.
The 7-Eleven brown.
Yes.
The red dots are having Murphy fuck with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So-
the red dot Indian, not the Hoya Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the
All
red,
right.
not Tomahawk Indian, the red dot Indian.
Yeah.
All right. Let's settle down. All right, so we've got a situation here in the U.S. LA's burning again. I know, everybody's so surprised.
Burn, baby, burn.
But it's very interesting, the situation that revolves around why LA is burning once again. It's actually not what everybody claims it is, actually, funny enough. Yeah, I know, weird. You know, they're claiming that it's something that it isn't. I wonder where we've seen that playbook before. So, ladies and gentlemen, did you have the Trump administration dismantling the illicit money trade that is funding the assholes in this country on your bingo cards?
Nope.
Because I did. I did, but most people don't talk about this shit.
I did notice.
Just to give a recap of the situation. So, back on Friday, so this all originally started on Friday, by the way, technically speaking, but it didn't really make the rounds initially because everybody was still talking about the whole Trump and Elon thing back on Friday. So when ICE initially went into LA on Friday, the news cycle was still filled up with Trump and Elon. Well, then by Sunday, the news had finally realized, like, wait, something's going on in LA. Why is there a shit ton of fucking ICE agents out in LA? And this is when all hell broke loose on Monday. Now, it technically started Sunday night, but it wasn't really there yet. Monday is when it really picked up. And this has to do with the ICE agents going in, serving 3 warrants for money laundering. This wasn't even an immigration thing, technically speaking. It was a money laundering and human trafficking thing.
Dun,
Now-
dun, dun.
It's not surprising. It's not surprising at all that the Democrats are pissed that, you know, law enforcement is going after money laundering and human trafficking. That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. But what is interesting is how they tried to turn the narrative over to the fact that these were ICE raids targeting illegal immigrants.
Alien. Go ahead and say
No.
it, illegal alien.
That too.
Well, I was literally trying to think of the word immigrant, and it wasn't coming to me for a second. I'm being absolutely serious with that. My brain's kind of frazzled right now. I've been watching way too much pepper bowling tonight or this week, so sleep has been very rare for me. I've been enjoying watching the Chicanos get shot in the face with pepper balls. It's fucking great. Anyways.
That's
But-
one spicy beaner.
That's one spicy beaner. It's just a spicy bean.
That's a spicy.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm a Guido. I gotta make Guido jokes about it. But here's the thing: is that at the end of the day, the ICE raids escalated from them serving the money laundering and human trafficking warrants to then they started hitting up key locations based on stuff that they were finding while serving these warrants. So the operation expanded in scope, which then culminates in what we now see with the riots. Now, the ironic part about this is that the rioters themselves have fucked themselves so royally. It's absolutely hilarious. So, we've all seen the picture. We all know the video. We've seen the picture of the dude standing up on the burning Waymo, fucking holding the Mexican flag. We've seen the video of the dude on the motorcycle with the Mexican flag, et cetera, et cetera. We've all seen the fucking pictures and videos. Mm-hmm. And by Wednesday morning, very early Wednesday morning, we're talking about the 2 a.m. mark, there was a concerted effort to change the narrative. Because the narrative of Mexican flags fell so flat on its face, Amazon was selling out of American flags. Because all of a sudden the rioters were getting the read on social media that, oh shit, everybody fucking hates us because we're fucking waving Mexican flags. Quick, get out the American flags. We don't have any. Fuck, buy them. So that whole situation has been hilarious. And now you're seeing a definitive drop in the number of Mexican flags, and Ecuadorian flags, which is very, very interesting that we're seeing those two flags in particular, and I'll explain why. But you see a drop in those number of flags and more American flags coming out. Well, the problem is the damage is already done. The narrative has already swung against the rioters and the protesters, and now people are pissed because there's a bunch of people burning down the city that are waving Mexican and Ecuadorian flags. Which then brings me to the black population of the country. Oh, brother. I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting Chicano on black fucking violence on fucking Twitter as quickly as it fucking happened. I knew it was going to happen because we all saw fucking Rodney King, right? We all understood what the fuck happened back then, but to see how fast it fucking spiraled on Twitter the past fucking 72 hours has been absolutely hilarious. First off, the blacks that came out and were posting the just minding my business meme. Oh shit, that's been great. That's been fucking fantastic. So it's absolutely hilarious to me. And mind you, the Chicanos, they're not going into the black neighborhoods by and large. They're staying in places like Koreatown, Little Tokyo, et cetera, et cetera. They're staying in areas where they know where they know they're safer.
Yeah, if they went into one like a black neighborhood.
Don't they remember what happened the last time they tried burning down Koreatown?
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, the Chicanos never learn, from their mistakes. But hey, it is what it is. They like jumping fences too much.
Yeah, but if they tried that shit in the black neighborhood, they'd be shot very quickly and not by the police. The gangs would deal with them.
Oh, yeah. Well, shit, with the number of white girls that I've seen out protesting and rioting, shit, the black gangs would fucking love that shit.
Yes.
My question is, with all these different Takis and tortas running around, it's like, you're on this side of the fence, why are you screaming Viva la Mexico? Like, do you really want to go back to your country where the cartel's gonna just shoot you for being a traitor?
We're going to get into that here shortly, because I want to do a full rundown of this shit for everybody on this episode. So we'll be getting into that. We'll be getting into that. But so now, so initially, ICE comes in, they do their thing. By Monday, it's turned into an absolute shit show. Trump immediately deploys the California National Guard. Fucking immediately. And here's the point. And a lot of people have lost on this. That was a bait. That's bait, that is. And the fucking rioters and protesters took it hook, line, and fucking sinker. Gavin Newsom took it hook, line, and fucking sinker. Fucking Bast, oh god, or Bast, whatever whatever the fuck her name is. I forget how you say it.
Karen Bass.
She's fucked. She's done.
Yeah.
She is no longer the mayor of LA.
She was already fucked after it turned out she was in Ghana when those LA fires happened. She was already fucked back then. Now she's like gangbang level fucked.
Hey, bent over the car fucked.
Yes.
Well, what do you expect from a woman that studied in Castro's Cuba?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. So, deploys the National Guard, the rioters and protesters escalate, which then gives credence to deploy more National Guard. And they then further escalated. And mind you, during this whole time, Trump throws out the idea of potentially activating the United States Marines under the Insurrection Act, which now the Marines are officially in LA. It's the 2nd Battalion, 2nd Regiment, 7th Battalion. Sorry, if you're going to send in the 2-7, I'm sorry. If I was a rioter or a protester and I got told that the 2-7 was coming, I'd be like, nope, I'm staying home. I'm not coming out. Not fucking happening. Because you're talking about the dudes that are stuck out at fucking 29 Palms. Talking about the dudes that have been fucking stuck in desert for fucking God knows how long. Like, they're sitting there fucking wanting something to kill. And you're giving them the golden opportunity to do so? Oh, brother. Not a good idea. But,
well, yeah, those Marines are going to end up taking some protesters to Ram Ranch.
But the point is that now the Marines are being sent in. Now, they're not being sent in under the Insurrection Act, which this is a key thing that a lot of people do not understand. You do not need to initiate the Insurrection Act in order to send federal military to a city. The only reason why you would have to activate the Insurrection Act is if they're going to be conducting law enforcement things, which they're not going to be doing. They're going to be defending federal installations. Totally different. And if you get your ass beat for daring to come on federal property while the Marines are standing there, good luck, have fun. I don't think you're going to make it fun.
Yeah, I believe they were brought in, instead of the Insurrection Act, it was something called Title 10 was what they used for... to bring
Title 10, yeah, well, yes, the Marines were activated under Title 10, but the Title 10 is what they did for the National Guard specifically, because how the federalization of the National Guard happens, either the governor has to request it or the president can use Title 10. That more relates to the National Guard than the Marine Corps. But it does also apply to the Marine Corps because, again, it applies to federal property the most. So,
it's amazing what surviving 2 assassination attempts will do to a man.
So now, what is this all culminating in? Well, we're about 3 days, or a little over 2.5 days to the U.S. Army Flag Day Parade, which just so happens to also be Donald Trump's birthday, by the way. So this year on, I believe it's the 15th?
14th.
No, 14th. So on the 14th, we will have Flag Day here in the United States, which also coincides with the 250th birthday of the United States Army, and then also coincides with Donald Trump's birthday. So they're throwing a big parade in Washington, D.C., as to commemorate the occasion, and it's a big fucking deal. Now,
woohoo! And my birthday.
It's your birthday too? Damn.
I actually was debating on going to a protest or see puppies. I think puppies won by a landslide.
Yeah.
Fucking Juners.
Go see puppies, because the last thing you need to do is get yourself caught up in a fucking riot.
Oh no, I would be like the pretty bean princess. I'd be like, I live on this side of the fence, and here's my papers. I'm adorable, right?
Yeah. Well,
Still gets thrown to Venezuela.
Yeah, well, it depends. If you're in a good area, then you would be prime. Like, you'd have prime realistic to sit down and watch a bunch of commies get their ass beat by the fucking riot police.
True.
I would. Okay, to be completely honest, showing up just with a bunch of fucking popcorn and just those big plastic bags of popcorn you buy from the store. Just show up with one of those. A cop walks over. What the hell are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm here for the show, bud. You just ignore me. I'm here for the show.
Yeah, here's what I'd do. I'd get myself one of those fold-out chairs, throw it down, get me a 6-pack of Tecate, just to rub it in their faces.
Yeah.
But here's so the plan that they have right now is that they are going to initiate a massive nationwide protest on the 14th to attempt to disrupt to pull away from the Flag Day parade in Washington, D.C. They also have a big protest planned in Washington, D.C., but we all know how that's going to go.
Yeah. And fun fact, it's not even just nationwide. They're even having these protests in fucking Toronto.
What the fuck? Why? Yeah. What sea bean is up there?
It's because Canada is Reddit the country, so of course they're.
That is so true. It is Reddit the country.
yeah, that is true. Now, one of the things that is being asked by a bunch of people out there is, what is the point? Why are they waving these flags? What are they doing, et cetera, et cetera? And we have to kind of get into the history of this whole situation, and we got to go way the fuck back at this point in time. And that is 1849, when the U.S. successfully defeats and then annexes parts of the Mexican Empire. Now, the Mexican Empire, for those who don't know, was a relatively short-lived state because Mexico thought they were too big for their britches, and they decided they wanted to try to take more land, i.e. Texas. Well, problem is Texas said, fuck you, have a nice day, and if you want it, come and take it. The problem for the Mexicans is that then they said, okay, yeah, we're going to come take it, and it costs them basically a third of their land. And, well, the U.S. has been its original shape since. So, yeah, go fuck yourselves, Mexico. Now, the problem is that the majority of these people, first and foremost, I'm going to say this right now, any of these people that try to claim that they're original descendants of the original settlers of the territory, I call absolute fucking bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit.
Most of these people are interbred to the high gill to the umpteenth degree. To the umpteenth degree anyways. So really they have no idea of their heritage whatsoever. So even if they were OG settler descendants, they wouldn't fucking know, to be completely frank. The key thing is that they claim this heritage to the land. It's the same shit that we get with the Native Americans and the same shit that we get with fucking places like fucking with Africa and so on and so forth. There's this whole bullshit. Hell, we even kind of get it with fucking Asians, because the Asians, there's all these little islands and shit out in the ocean that they all claim and whatnot. You fucking Sakhalin, for example, between the Japanese and the Russians. Fucking, there's some islands in the Aleutian chain.
The Senkaku Islands between Japan and China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's all these different territorial disputes across the board, across the world, and the key thing is heritage to the land. That's the key phrase that's usually thrown around. Now, here in the United States, that's of a particular note, because that is a narrative that has been thrown around for ages at this point in time, basically since the 1930s, but it really picked up steam in the 1960s. I also would mention is also the time period that the Civil Rights Movement kicks off, where this narrative has continued playing out. Now, one of the things I'll mention about the people who claim heritage to the Southeast United States, for example, tend to forget one key thing. There was a population of 50, 60, 70,000 of them. At most 100,000 of them. The population was incredibly fucking low during the time period. It wasn't, there wasn't this massive expansive, hell, fucking Texas barely had the population of fucking Ohio in the in the early 1900s.
Well, of course. I mean, like, look at how much of that land is just fucking desert. Right? It's
Well,
not a very
even
not very
beyond that.
hospitable. Yeah.
Not even beyond that.
Wait, hold on now. Hold on. There's multiple environments in Texas.
Yeah,
It's not
course.
just desert.
I don't mean all, but like, there's a lot of arid, semi-arid areas in Texas.
But I will say this: we do have a lot of things that try to kill us in Texas,
Yeah.
as far as animals go.
And he was more referring to the Southeast in general.
Yeah.
But the key thing is to understand that the vast majority of that territory was not settled whatsoever because it was the fucking frontier of the empire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Battle of the Alamo really does express a lot of that claiming the land or it being the Texas, the Republic of Texas.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing though, is the Republic of Texas had been declared even before the large-scale settlement by both Mexicans and the Americans. So the whole Texan identity had kind of cropped up before the large-scale expansion of these two groups. And mind you, the territorial borders of Texas during the initial establishment of the Republic of Texas weren't the same as they were now.
I'm in complete agreement. And to make matters worse, when we made, I think it was Santa Ana, bow down and sign the papers, because I actually did a recent stream about this. We put into blood, sweat, and tears and ink to have any illegal go back to their country, and the fact that we have went over that solemn paperwork makes me wonder, do they even realize we can go backtrack that far to realize, hey, they're not allowed here? And Texas is not a sanctuary state either.
Yeah. Hey,
quite a few of your progressives would love to turn it into a sanctuary state.
Yeah. So
they're trying.
You mentioned Santa Ana. Is it true that Texas still has his wooden leg?
You know, there's a lot of lores in Texas. I have not heard that one.
Oh.
Now, most of the people that were in the Alamo were definitely other, what do they call it? New England.
Yeah.
They had a lot of people that were criminals from the East Coast that went to Texas. So a lot of people definitely took advantage of, hey, if you kill a brownie, you get a lamb. So that was definitely the big, caboodle of getting onto that war.
Well, and even beyond that, so you have the end of the war, you have the ceding of land, and then you have, again, a minuscule population for the territories. These territories did not have high-level population until after the United States took it over. And even to this day, only a couple of those states actually have a large population because these territories are relatively remote. They're relatively uninhabitable because, again, you go to fucking Nevada and tell me Las Vegas isn't a fucking anomaly. Come on.
Like that does not exist in nature. Right? It's a city in a fucking desert. It only exists because they can pump in water from other areas.
Most notably, the Colorado River via Lake Mead.
Yes.
But that's the point, though, is at the end of the day, you're talking about a region that first and foremost, I'm going to be completely frank with you. The population that currently exists there is too fucking high to begin with.
Yeah.
There's a reason why LA has as many problems as it does. There's a reason why fucking Las Vegas has as many problems as it does. There's a reason why so on and so on and so on. Like, the populations are already too fucking high. But the fact of the matter is that across the board, like, yeah, you can claim heritage to the former empire, but y'all American now. Period in the story. If you didn't choose
on
to,
this side of the fence, y'all aren't willing to go back to the other side of the fence for real.
well, that's the point. Is that if you chose not to move after the ceding of territory, that's on you, boo boo. That's like a fucking Frenchman bitching that Alsace-Lorraine got fucking annexed by the fucking Germans after the Franco-Prussian War. Like, sorry, go fuck yourself. If you didn't move, that's your problem.
Well, you also have to remember, though, a lot of these Chicanos, even though they may be American citizens, some of them are descendants from illegal aliens.
Well, no. So
and they still hold
Oh,
loyalties
the
to
DACA
Mexico.
thing?
No. So the Chicano identity actually comes from the 1960s. So what you end up having is, and we'll keep moving forward with the conversation. So in the 1960s, or again, it starts in the 30s, it carries forward to the 60s. And really what kind of amplified this was World War II. Because, mind you, let's just say it how it is, Mexicans weren't trusted. They weren't trusted in the military. They were often abused.
Those darn sombreros.
They tended to get told to go fuck themselves, and just generally speaking, it was the same thing with the Native Americans. Those two groups tended to just get shafted during the Second World War. But after that, when the military desegregated and everything, that's when things kind of evened out. However, the resentment from World War II still persisted. And then going through the Korean War and then into the 60s, and then you have the start of what becomes the Civil Rights Movement. Stoner, mute your mic. Holy shit. Wow.
By the way, check general.
Okay, so what you end up having... All right, hold on. Yes, we are aware of this.
Okay, never mind.
No, you're good. I was going to bring it up. So what you end up having is in the 1960s, you have what is referred to as the Chicano movement. And the Chicanos were Mexican-born Americans that wanted to claim a new identity, the Chicano identity. And basically the whole idea is that, we're not Mexicans, we're not Americans, we're Chicanos. And this movement primarily centered on California, was pretty prevalent in Arizona and Nevada, kind of prevalent in New Mexico and the western Texas area near El Paso, but never really pushed into Texas properly, simply because Texans are Texans. They've always had their own identity. And so the whole Chicano identity never really breached past El Paso, to be completely frank. So you end up having this movement that comes into being, and then as part of this movement, you have the creation of the Aztlan ideology. And this idea that, we're descendants of the Aztec people, and we have the birthright to this land, and so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. And then you start looking into where that ideology came from, and you realize, like, oh, shit, this is, USSR. It's a Soviet Union thing. Great. Awesome. And
you should see the Raza flag. It looks like something funny Austrian man would have made.
Oh, wow.
Or funny Italian man. I'm sorry, it reminds me more of what Mussolini had as a flag than it does of anything that Adolf did.
Yeah.
I know how to get around that censor, bud.
Yeah. We're talking about the gesticulator, not the Austrian painter.
Yeah. But the point is that you end up having this ideology that, again, claims a heritage and then proceeds to kind of do its thing, but then it kind of just falls off. Now, it falls off starting in the 70s, and mainly because the Chicano movement had basically just kind of flatlined the Aztlan thing, but the Aztlan thing picked up in Mexico. And Mexico was the intended target of it, because what the USSR wanted to do was create a problem on our border. Now, it didn't pick up the way that the USSR wanted, because they were hoping that it would cause a communist revolution in Mexico, and then, the U.S. would have a communist Mexican state on their border, and yada, yada, yada. Never really picked up like that, mainly because, remember the whole, cartel thing. And mind you, the whole cartel thing started a lot earlier than the 70s and 80s. It really started picking up steam in the 50s into the 60s. They just didn't become widely known about until the late 70s, early 80s. And then, of course, we get El Chapo. Now, going through the 80s and 90s, the Chicano identity, the Aztlan ideology had kind of fallen off. It kind of just went dormant, never really went anywhere. And that was mainly down to two things. And that was Ronald Reagan offering amnesty to people who were here illegally. And then Bill Clinton just basically saying, I'm not going to enforce shit. Because of those two main actions, those two identities have kind of just fallen off and just went dormant. But then when Bush Jr. came into office and he actually started enforcing immigration law hardcore, that's when these things started picking back up again. But they never really picked up to the extent, and this is where you get DACA kids. Remember, the DACA kids, kind of come out of the 90s, but they mainly come out of the early 2000s. And this is where, Bush is like, okay, well, we'll be hardcore on the border, but if they make it here, kind of the same thing with Cubans. Well, if you touch dry land, then fine, fuck it, we can't do anything about you. It was kind of the same thing. And then Obama. Obama. I fucking hate your guts. You're just as bad as Bush. Actually, you're worse than Bush, technically speaking.
Damn. Shots fired. Pew pew.
No, I'm sorry. Clinton, fucking Reagan, Clinton, Bush Jr., and Obama, I put them all in the same fucking box. They're all fucking little shitbags. But the thing to have with that is Obama, his whole intent was, we're going to do this, and then we're going to allow as many people into the country as possible. And then when Trump got into office, it created pandemonium because he didn't want to let people into the country unless they fit a specific bill. And then all of a sudden the shit show starts. So yes, this whole thing has been building since the 50s and 60s, basically. But the actual match that lit the fire has been incredibly recent, comparatively speaking. It's been building, but now it's come to roost.
Hell, about 20 or so years ago, all these Chicano groups were kind of active. Then it seemed like whenever the global war on terror started heating up, they kind of laid low for a little while. And over the last 8 years, they started rebuilding and coming back in force.
Well, I'm gonna give you a little hint of why. A lot of them enlisted in the military. And the reason being is that a lot of them, there was two sides to that coin. You have the Chicanos that view themselves more as Americans that enlisted because they wanted to fight for their country. Then you have the Chicanos that view themselves more as Mexicans. They enlisted for more nefarious reasons because they wanted to get the training, they wanted to be able to, you actually look at the amount of equipment that goes missing from the military. in the southern United States, you start realizing, who it's connected to and whatnot. Oh, by the way, don't look up the military investigations into guys getting arrested, for strategically relocating equipment to an undesirable location. So yeah, they laid low during GWAT, not because they were, laying low. They were just doing other things. And so then once they got back, then you have the revival of the issue in the forefront of everybody's mind. And mind you, right now, the U.S. is technically in peacetime. We are in peacetime as of right now. We're not fighting any wars. We have some minor deployments across the world, but those deployments are, again, they're minuscule. They're out of all the forces that we have in the field, I think it's probably, and when I say in the field, I mean like actually in countries that we're actively engaging in operations in, it's less than 10,000 or something like that. Like, it's very few overall.
But now that you talk about us being in peacetime, here's a nice little question. Since the Mexican government has been kind of egging on these protests and everything, and then you had that Senate leader in the Mexican government talk about reconquering the border states, what do you want to bet that we're going to be going into a wartime footing soon and get ready to
We'll get into that because that's an overarching topic that I want to cover here in a bit. So we'll get into that here shortly. Real quick, Dale, Mark here.
All right.
I need to go do trucks.
That thing is
maybe
funny.
but it works.
Yeah, it's like really bad.
Speaking of air conditioning, though, I assume that's one thing you can't really get by in Texas without.
Oh hell no! I went down there to Houston once during the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
About as bad as Alabama, just not quite as humid.
Oh, well, I guess that's a slight relief. ShortStack, does the heat in Texas tend to be dry or humid, usually?
Oh, what part?
What part are you from?
So I'm up north, so it gets dry, and then west it gets drier to the point where even a East Coasterner will get a nosebleed because it's so dry. And then the humidity in Houston, and along with the smog of Houston, kind of like our little LA, is very humid. Like, and I know when I'm in Houston is because my Polynesian skin will get all like glowy, and I look like I'm back on the island, and I'm like all like in my element. Austin's pretty dry, but I wouldn't say it's dry enough for a nosebleed, but it's still like searing heat. I don't think anyone's actually ever tested if you can cook an egg in Texas. I know they did that in Arizona.
Yeah, I heard about that. Are there any parts of Texas that are more temperate? Like, not that hot out?
Good fun. Because remember, we're closer to the equator.
Right.
And then the other thing too is like, as long as you got good air conditioning and don't go out, you're fine. But you have to be built for this weather if you're a very active person. Like, that's why I have cats instead of dogs.
Right.
And the other thing too is like, if you have kids, like, you definitely want to like pre-plan and not overheat. And that's why, it's important, kids, stay fucking hydrated.
Yes, it is.
So, really, that's like the overall.
I've been trying to talk, and you guys can't hear me because I was muted. Fuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, let me just sum it up like this. There's a belt along the coast that's humid as fuck, and it's a fucking swampland, basically, without being a swamp. And then the rest of the state, minus the part over in the northeastern section by Louisiana, that's a little more temperate, but honestly speaking, it's still fucking southern United States. San Antonio is a fucking dust bowl.
Austin is a little less than a Dust Bowl, but close enough. Dallas, fuck Dallas.
Agreed. Fuck Dallas.
Well, I mean, Texas does have like the top 4 most dangerous intersections, but when you think of all the illegals, immigrants, blah blah blah, and everyone that keeps coming back and forth through here, it's like no wonder why we have a shit show of people hating certain areas because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the thing, is when you're a nexus point between two countries,
Yeah.
jump across the Mexican border, and I forget what state that is.
So Houston is a really big international pool. Like again, there's like I can compare Austin to RDC because that's where the state capital is. Houston is kind of like our LA in Las Vegas because, you know, we actually during COVID had drive-through stripper bars. So you got to see your titties to go. And then Dallas and Fort Worth, we're kind of like the cock and balls. Like we try to stay as conservative as we can, but we really try to hold fast. And then every other city along Texas that's not even mentioned, like Waco or Terrell. Alex Jones is from Rockwall, which is also my hometown. And West Texas, those are all the the middle children that never get to be heard about their conservative. So they're definitely.
What about Amarillo? What's that like?
Amarillo, so that's a college town, and because Texas Tech is like the #1 state to have like STD rates, I personally would not want to get close to that town.
I never would have
Oh wait, no, that's Lubbock. No wait, that's Lubbock.
No, Amarillo. Yeah, Amarillo is the one that's like way up north, I believe.
It's north and west, yeah, or north and west, yeah. And that's probably drier and awful and probably the liberal, very yellow over there, I would say.
If I remember correctly, I think Amarillo's a home of Pantech where they build weapons.
Right.
I didn't hear anything he just said.
Yeah,
really, I didn't hear anything either because you had a big sound go through your speaker.
That's weird.
I blame the
I'm
trucks.
standing next to Reaper, so I can't do much.
I said Amarillo's the home of Pantex where nuclear weapons are made.
Base.
Yeah, gotta love nukes.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, what would you say, Short Stack? What is the best part of Texas?
Corpus Christi.
Good answer. I'd also,
San Antonio.
if I had to guess,
I only say that because it's like you can see the hummingbirds from there if you plan out your trip right, and then the water's a lot nicer. But you know, if you see an occasional DB floating, you know, you call them out. You just say Beaner.
Yes. I'd also guess that the weather is a bit more temperate down in Corpus Christi than, say, like...
No, it's tropical as fuck.
Right. Oh.
Yeah. But the only reason why it's nice is because that tropical weather and then, like, you're only going to go there to visit. You're not going to go there to stay. Like, the only place that's very good to stay is, like, the outskirts of whichever one you want to deal with whenever you have to go to the city. But... again, like, Waco's kind of nice, but you have to deal with a lot of the crazy military brats there, which, I love our military, but sometimes the people that carry the aftermath of living with someone who's from the military is kind of iffy. You would probably die in West Texas because it's so dry. So somewhere in between Waco in Dallas would probably be best. Corsicana is actually a really quiet little town. So.
See, the furthest south I could live is fucking Tennessee, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Tennessee, and this is what's fucked up. Tennessee is actually looks more conservative, especially when they did not want kids to be in drag shows for the sake of, like, you know, I don't know, sexualization in front of a child. So. I thought that was
I
interesting.
don't give a fuck about the politics. I give a fuck about the weather.
Same.
I
Like,
mean, I guess that's fair.
yeah, like
Yeah, that's
get
the other
on.
thing too. Do you want to care about a tornado or do you want to care about a hurricane? It's really up to you.
true. Like, same. I would love to live in Texas because Texas seems quite based, but I don't think I could handle that heat. Probably have to agree with Mike there.
Well, then at that
Tennessee.
point in time, you go to fucking Knoxville.
Yeah. Ideally, if we're just talking about weather, I think I'd most rather just live in Alaska, but that's unfortunately there's not much up there.
Oh yeah, yeah. You might as well live in Alaska and just make your own shit.
Yeah. Give
But it's
give
very
me cold.
That's actually very incestuous.
Oh, but
Duh.
like give me cold and dark. That's my ideal temperature. Cold,
I'm
dark,
a perfect
and dry.
man cave.
Yes.
See, this is why I like Ohio, because it's so in between everything that I don't have to worry about the weather whatsoever.
All right,
Oh.
perfect, gentlemen. I will see y'all next time.
All right.
All right, take care.
Okay.
Take care.
Back to having
Oh.
a sausage fest.
Yes.
What'd you say?
I said back to having the sausage fest.
Well, now that the women folk are out, now we can get down to some serious business.
I'm almost done, boys.
All right, no worries.
Oh, hey, have you seen the pictures I've been posting, Dale?
I've been seeing them, yeah.
Well, feel free to use them as needed in your editing.
I will.
Oh, it feels so good in the cooler deck right now. Feels magical in there. All right. Well, now I just got to walk around the building real quick and then I'm done. Now we're very much officially in summer because it's still hot. It's like, fuck, dude, it's 7 o'clock. Fuck off.
What is hot in Ontario or in Ohio?
Oh, 80 plus.
It's not that bad.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
it
well,
could definitely be
down
worse.
here. Well, really, from down here, it's actually 90 and above that's considered hot. In addition to high humidity.
Terrible. The worst of all
Well,
combinations: heat and humidity.
Well, we get humid here, too. Hell, tomorrow's going to be terrible.
Oh, and something
Thankfully.
else too. You're talking about the weather and shit earlier. Well, I traded tornadoes for hurricanes.
Would you rather hurricanes or tornadoes? You mean?
Tornadoes because they're over and done. A fucking hurricane.
Yeah.
Flashback to Hurricane Helene.
Ah, yes.
Yes, but you're also in a hurricane zone, so you're covered under flood insurance.
I'm honestly surprised they actually insure people who live in hurricane zones for flood damage. It seems kind of like not
They
the
have
best.
to. It's when you, like in Florida, for example, if you have home insurance, your flood insurance is included in it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, it's a simple fact of like, hey, did your house survive this year? Yeah? Okay, cool. Hey, did your house survive this year? No? Okay, here's the payment.
I'm guessing that home insurance is probably pretty expensive in Florida.
It can be, but it depends on what part of Florida you're in.
Yeah.
If you're in the Panhandle, it's not nearly as bad. If you're down by Miami, it can be pretty atrocious. Tampa, it's pretty high.
Yeah. Which is a shame. Florida's another place that on paper...
What were you saying?
Yeah, I was saying, but yeah, Florida's another place that's like, on paper I probably like living because it seems, the laws there seem pretty nice, but it's also just it's literally hell, temperature-wise. Like, I remember the only time I ever went there, I went to Orlando to see something, and this was in like the end of March, and it was like 90 plus degrees, and the air was like water. And I was like, what the fuck?
Well,
this is March. Why
Well,
am I dying of the heat?
Well, you also have to remember that Florida is tropical.
Yeah.
So.
And basically, all the time that I wasn't there seeing the thing I was going to, I just spent the rest of my time in my hotel. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going out in this weather.
Yeah, now imagine there's a bunch of Ohioans that go to Disney World because they love the weather. And then by the time they're done with the week that they're there, they're dead.
Yeah. Well, something I will never understand why we in Canada have a bunch of people who every summer go down to Florida for the summer. I will never understand snowbirds. Like, why would you want to go? Why would you want to put up with that?
Well, first off, here I am, fucking wanting to have a house in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, specifically so I can fuck off during the winters. Now, there's also the chance I get snowed in if there's a storm cycle that comes through the mountains. But at the same time, I'm like, fuck it. It's not nearly as bad as Ohio during the winter.
Does Ohio get snow? Or a lot of snow?
Yeah. It's not as bad. It's like southern France.
Right.
It's actually really funny if you didn't know this. The UK and Ontario, or not Ontario, Quebec have very similar weather.
Sounds about right.
All right, so I am back now.
Welcome back.
All right, so where were we? Oh yeah. So culminating in all this bullshit that I have gone over, we have the Brown Berets, a neo-communist Mexican extremist group that they've done some really dirty shit in Mexico. They haven't really done much dirty shit here in the U.S., but they do exist here in the U.S. And I guess the best way to, to sum them up is, imagine if you had a cartel-style IRA. It's kind of the best way to sum them up. They're pretty fucking militant. They're pretty fucking brutal, and they are a imminent threat given the current situation. Now, do I think that the Brown Berets are going to launch a insurgency in the southern United States as of the very moment? No, I don't think. I don't think that's on the horizon. What I do know is on the horizon is that they're going to start recruiting. They're going to start pushing their ideas pretty hard, because, simply put, they are going to use this as a catalyst to start prepping for an insurgency. So, they are an imminent threat. So, again,
what's it going to take for the Trump administration to declare those assholes a terrorist organization and treat them as such?
Well, the problem is that we're going to have to start. They're going to actually have to become active. They've been in a passive state. So in terms of militias have the passive and active state. During the passive state, they're doing humanitarian work, and they're doing propaganda, and they're doing this, and they're doing that, et cetera, et cetera. The military wing of these organizations doesn't go active until they absolutely have to, because they win more points during peacetime than they do wartime. This is what made the Taliban so successful. This is what made Al-Qaeda so successful. This is what made Boko Haram so successful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's their effect that they have during peacetime, not their effect that they have during wartime. Can they have an amazing effect during wartime? Yes, they can fucking accomplish fucking anything and everything. But it's the build-up before the wartime conditions come into play that they truly benefit from. So this is going to be the time that they start recruiting and start building up and start stockpiling weapons and munitions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And
if you think for even a second that the Mexican government isn't going to support this in some form or fashion, you're stupid. Now, luckily, we're kind of in a good situation because we have so many fingers in the cartel pie that the cartels aren't going to be able to do much without us knowing about it. One of the key examples is the Sinaloa cartel. The Sinaloas are basically owned by the CIA. The Sinaloas have lost a lot of their power to the New Generation cartel because they do not, there's a lot of mistrust within the Sinaloa cartel because it's like, hey, are you working for the fucking Americans? And so there's a lot of back and forth and whatnot. But the Sinaloas use that to their advantage because then at the end of the day, they can fucking learn shit about another cartel, sell that cartel out to the Americans, and then we come in and we fucking bushwhack a couple guys, and we get what we want. The Sinaloas get what they want, and it's kind of a mutual beneficial situation.
Yeah, works out. And the Sinaloa is also much less, like, violent than the New Generation cartel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like the Sinaloas were pretty fucking brutal back in the day before we got our claws into them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were pretty fucking brutal, but they have definitely mellowed out since. It's just like with the fucking, with the American mob. The American mob back in the 60s and 70s was fucking horrendously fucking powerful and horrendously brutal. But then the 80s and 90s rolled around and we fucking started kicking the shit out of them. And then eventually we said to the rest of them, like, hey, look, all you got to do is go legit and pay taxes and we'll leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? They all fucking went legit and fucking paid their taxes. And next thing you knew, boom, 99% of them weren't a problem anymore. Now, are they still doing dirty shit? Probably. But at the end of the day, there's a lot less dirty shit happening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was something that was brought up earlier. Yes. Okay. So, Stoner brought up the map of the original Republic of Texas. Yes, technically speaking, that was the OG Republic of Texas, but only on a technical level. They actually didn't exert control over all those territories in any way, real way, shape, or form. The actual Republic of Texas, I forget what the river's called off the top of my head. There's another river. So basically you have two rivers that run in parallel with each other. The Rio Grande, and then there's another river further north that runs from the Gulf. That was the original border that the Mexicans wanted to settle on before we said, no, the border's going to be the Rio Grande. That border, that river, and then eastward was the true republic. The true republic was much, much smaller than what people imagine. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to actually exert control over the territory for you to claim the territory. That's just what it is.
So, now, what do you think is going to happen over the next few weeks with regards to all these things, all this Chicano nonsense that's been going on? Do you think it's going to get worse?
Chicanos are... No, actually, I don't think it is. I think the Chicanos are going to get their head beat in.
Good.
So, what you're going to end up having is the Chicanos are going to... They're going to try to escalate, but they don't control the escalation. The U.S. government currently controls the escalation. They can go ahead and go full bore and start trying to do some BLM, Summer of Love 2.0 bullshit. But the problem is, as soon as they do that, the crackdown comes down so heavy-handed that it doesn't matter.
Right. And
then you have a replay of Richard Nixon. You have the immediate and ultimate crackdown. You have Kent State, et cetera, et cetera. You have all this shit happen, and then Richard Nixon goes to win the election, 49-1. Like, Yeah, no, sorry. I don't care who the fuck you are. What's going to end up happening is that these people are going to scare people to death. It's going to be it's literally going to be a replay of BLM, which, oh, by the way, what was one of the main driving factors of Trump's reelection? The fact that he was going to crack down on people being assholes. He was going to crack down on the fucking bullshit. He was actually going to enforce the law. Like, that's literally his main platform, and that's what he got elected. Like, it's really funny. They there's a bunch of talk like, oh, his disapproval on immigration is at like 45%. And I was laughing because I'm like, really, 45%? 45%. Yeah, I call bullshit.
Yeah.
Let me see the poll. And then you look at who the poll is from. Oh, it's from Gallup.
Yeah.
You mean the same Gallup that historically oversamples Democrats across the board?
Yeah. Well, my general rule for polling is, I mean, even Gallup can be okay sometimes, but it's if they don't provide the methodology and show what percentage, because some polls will show what percentage of for example, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents they polled. And if they don't show that number, then I don't believe it. Because I will sometimes see some polls that are look like, oh, Trump's doing bad. And then I'll go and I'll look and it'll be like, oh, D plus 10. There's a 10-point difference in the percentage of Democrats. Yeah. It's like, oh, we're back to these garbage polls.
Gallup poll, though.
Yes.
I think if you aggregate all of Gallup's polls, it's like a D plus 5 or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Somebody, Real Clear Politics was talking about this. Richard Bears.
Right.
He was talking about this because Gallup had put out a poll that was so fucking off. It was unfucking real. It was like deep. The poll ended up being, if you accounted for everything, it was like a D plus 16 poll. Yeah. It was so fucking off base, it was unfucking real. And he went into it a little bit, and he had his guys go through, take all of Gallup's polls. I forget what the issue was specifically, but he's like, hey, find all of Gallup's polls on this particular fucking issue, and then proceed to aggregate it to find out what the bias in their polling was. And again, it came out to like a plus 5 D. Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, Gallup's oversampling Democrats by a wide fucking margin. Mm-hmm. And here's the point. If Gallup is showing, oh, hey, 45% approval of Trump's immigration policy, but their poll is D plus 5, oh, that's not good for you.
No.
That means more Democrats are approving of what Trump is doing than you like.
Yeah. I just all
and
the
so you're trying
of polls. Remember that poll that was supposedly very well respected that said Harris would win Iowa by 4?
Oh God.
Yep. That's all you need to know about polling.
Well, real clear politics is the only one I trust at this point in time.
Yeah.
And I just use it as a metric. I don't use it as the gospel. I just use it as the metric. Mm-hmm. But Richard Barris and his guys are the only ones that are even close to shit.
Yeah, well, Rasmussen's generally pretty good as well.
Well, Rasmussen is generally decent. I won't say they're good because their methodology's flawed. They're still using fucking early 2000s methodology almost across the board. Their polling just sucks. Like they do decent in tabulating polling properly, but the problem is their actual polling methods suck donkey dick. Like I can't tell you how many spam calls I've gotten that I'll pick it up just because it's like a local number, and I'm like, oh shit, that might actually be something, so I'll pick it up, and it will start talking to me, and it's like, what the fuck is this? And then it says something about a Rasmussen poll, and I was like, oh, fuck off. Like, no, I'm sorry. Fuck off with your fucking phone polls. What I would love to see is proper verification polls online that people can actually go and take, where you have to submit your ID and you have to do this and you have to do that in order to verify your identity, in order to be able to actually fucking take the poll. I would love to see that kind of shit, because then it would make polling so much fucking easier.
True. But then I will say that one thing I think phone polling has over that is like, because when you're polling, you generally, someone who's going to be going online looking to do polls is not generally representative of the average person. Whereas if you just call random people, I think you are much more likely to just get a random sample of people, right? Like,
I understand
the average person is not looking around to where is not browsing for online polls to take.
But no, here's the point: is that if you have a situation, and I love how we just got off in the weeds in this. Mm-hmm. But if you take somebody and you say, hey, or you take a political issue, hey, we're going to do online polling for this, and you have a shit ton of people spreading it across fucking Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, you're gonna catch fucking everybody, and the Democrats are gonna be sitting there, and they're gonna be bitching and fucking whining that they have to certify their fucking identity.
Mm-hmm. The one time Democrats want people to certify their identity before voting,
it's gonna be. Well, that's the point. Is that at the end of the day, they're gonna be sitting there bitching and whining and crying that they have to put in their information in order to fucking take the poll and shit. And the rest of us are just going to be like, yeah, fuck it, let's do this. And then all of a sudden, it's going to have like an R+10 slant to it, because these fucking assholes are sitting there like, oh my God, waste it. Fuck off, you fucking nerds. Anyways, getting back to our original fucking point, because we definitely got off into the weeds there. Mm-hmm. The point is that, they're showing that, oh, Trump is 45% disapproval, but then fucking CNN, I forget the guy's name off the top of my head, but CNN shows a poll, fucking Trump is +6 on this issue, just from week to week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, fuck. I can only imagine what it's going to look like next week. Because CNN runs the polls every fucking week. So if you have week-to-week change of +6 in favor, let's just say you get a +6 the following week. That's going to show a steady approval change that you can't surmount that. And just burning shit and just fucking acting like assholes, I would imagine that it's probably going to double. So you're probably going to get a +12 the following week if Trump cracks down on shit and just bashes heads a little bit. Mm-hmm. I could see it. So then it creates the conditions where, what happens with the midterms? And this is kind of the topic that I really wanted to get into, is this is lining up to hand us the midterms so fucking hard it's unreal. Like, let's also acknowledge a couple things. Thomas Massey and Rand Paul are fucked. Lindsey Graham is fucked. There's a bunch of different people that are absolutely fucked. And they have no shot in hell of being able to actually fucking do anything, because they're fucking around and they're going to find out. Like, Thomas Massey, per my understanding, is like +1 in his polling right now. He's squeaking the fuck by on the polls. Rand Paul, he's done. Per my understanding, he's like -2 or -3 on his polls. Right. He's fucked.
Polls against who?
I think these were just general, like, would you vote for Rand Paul kind of things. Oh. Which showing that decline, where, mind you, he's always been pretty consistent across the board, seeing a -2, -3 slant against him, he's fucked. Lindsey Graham is looking at -10 numbers. His office is in full damage control mode right now, trying to boost his image and everything. But I think he's going to retire. I think he's just going to say fucking and be done. The reason why I say that is because of the situation with the the bill and everything, when he came out, you know, acting like an asshole about the bill and whatnot, there was some of his wording and everything tells me that he's being told to say something, and it's him being told like, hey, your value as an asset is used up now. You're gonna do this, and then we're not gonna kill your family. You can just go back to regular life and not exist anymore. But yeah, no, a lot of these people are gonna end up getting boofed, and then we're gonna replace them with populists who are actually gonna do the job that we want them to do. And then it's gonna be like, hey, like, how many seats did we gain? Oh, +4 in the House, you know, +2 in the Senate, et cetera, et cetera. Just that kind of change would cause the midterms to be an absolute fucking deciding factor for the rest of this administration. That means 2028, that's a landslide. 2028 is going to be an absolute fucking shit show for the Democrats if they lose these midterms, which I do believe they will. So is there anything else you guys want to cover in regards to...
Well, to kind of build on what you were just saying, all we got to do is just play what the Democrats have been doing the last few weeks, and need I say more?
Well, I would like to address one thing. Just we were talking about the midterms. You do have to be careful because the party that's in power always underperforms in the midterms, because a section of the electorate of whatever party's in power gets complacent and they don't vote.
Well,
and then everyone in the other party always, like, if you look at like all the special elections that have happened since Trump won, they've all like Democrat blowouts. And again, not because Trump is unpopular, but because the side in power stops caring, and then the side not in power is in full freak-out mode, and they crawl over broken glass to vote.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. But the point is that if people just do what they're supposed to fucking do and go out and fucking vote, then we've got it hook, line, and sinker.
Yes.
Absolutely fucking literally.
If the people actually come out, then yes, I am in agreement. I'm just skeptical they will, because people are lazy.
Oh no, I'm gonna be bullying everybody that I know. I'm gonna be bullying the shit out of them. Because it's like, nah, you little fucking retard. Like Gavin, like when the election happened, or when the election was about to go down, Gavin was talking about like, oh, I kind of really don't have the time. Like, bitch, leave work an hour fucking early, take the fucking hit on an hour of time, and go and fucking vote, you little lemon. Like, I literally bullied him for like 2 or 3 days before the election, and then he got out, and he's like, fine, and then fucking left work early one day, or that day, and fucking went and voted. I was like, good boy.
Can you also always
like,
Can you always just do early voting, so like you just don't like vote on the weekend or something, like a couple weeks before?
Well, no, that's the point, is that at the end of the day, like, first off, I don't trust that. I do not fucking trust it. Period in the story. Even here in Ohio, we're pretty good. We did a pretty good job with this last election, but I don't trust the early voting bullshit. Because unfortunately, at the end of the fucking day, I do not trust these people with my fucking ballot. I just don't. If this shit could be done in, you know, a state like Florida or a state like Texas gets shit counted almost to the dot. Florida gets counted almost to the dot by the time midnight rolls. Like, we know the results of those 2 states. And several other states are like that as well. Ohio, generally speaking, we know the results of Ohio by I'd say about 1 a.m. But again, it's like, at the end of the fucking day, it's like, no, we can do better. We can do this fucking better, period, in the fucking story.
Yes. And then there's California, where you know the results 3 weeks later.
Yeah, well, yeah, seriously. Now, also, another thing that I would like to point out, and this is the thing that a lot of people need to be cognizant about, is that they are going to try desperately to demoralize us. They're going to try desperately to try to get us not voting because of a specific year, 2030.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in 2030, gentlemen?
Redistricting, the census, all that stuff.
Census.
And basically, the blue wall states become irrelevant to the presidency for at least the next decade. And California takes a big hit in electoral votes, and so does New York.
Oh, well, no. It's even worse than that, bud.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is why it's so important for us to get the deportation shit done. Because here's the point. California right now is slated to lose 4 seats.
Yep.
4 seats. Like, that's massive.
It is.
But what happens when all of a sudden 2 or 3 million people are deported from California?
That's almost... That's
it
close
could be
to 10 more.
It could be 8-10 seats. Like, it could be apocalyptic for California to lose that much representation. And that's the thing, is like, that's what these people are trying to fight against. It's the same thing that happened with 2024. They tried fighting the fucking, the voter roll cleanup as hard as they could because they needed to prevent us from removing the names off the voter rolls that they could use to pack the ballot box, to stuff the ballot box. That's what they were trying to do. That's why they were fighting the voter roll cleanups the way they were.
Mm-hmm.
I'll actually give an example of this, actually, because I witnessed it firsthand, actually, technically speaking. I had a friend who was working as a poll worker, and they were going through, or not as a poll worker, but as an elections office worker. And they got an order to, hey, go over your voter rolls and start verifying names and addresses and so on and so forth, so we can start removing people that need to be removed off the voter roll. And the county got served with a cease and desist letter literally the next day by the county Democrat office. Literally the next fucking day. So, yeah, okay. Keep telling me that fucking 2020 was legit. Keep telling me that. Because I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. You don't fight doing the normal electoral process unless you have something to hide. Period. In a story.
Yep.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't it already come out, like within the last few weeks, that there was some shady shit going on then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, they want to distract away from that. Oh, by the way,
that reminds me. Tying back to what we were discussing earlier, does Mexico have a fucking death wish?
Well, let me get into that with our next topic, because it kind of all plays together. But I do have an update on something. You guys notice how Elon Musk just stopped?
Yep.
Like, all of a sudden, Saturday rolled around and nothing? I want to know who got fired. No, seriously, I want to know who got fired. Because the situation with Trump and Musk, I'm convinced it was a loyalty test. Not for Elon, but I'm convinced that it was to throw Elon out there as a honeypot. See who sides with Elon. See who backs Elon unequivocally, and figure out who's disloyal.
Cough Ian Miles Chong, cough.
Yep. I think it was I'm convinced at this point in time it was a loyalty test.
Yeah.
Because notice how a lot of people had their press credentials rescinded. A lot of people, I've heard about several people getting removed from fucking positions within the White House and the DOD and the State Department. I've heard about multiple people are now talking about how none of their contacts are talking to them whatsoever. So on and so on and so on. Now, what's really funny is then the follow-on to that. Tulsi Gabbard.
Yep.
So, I'm convinced that the video that Tulsi Gabbard put out was a two-front attack on, or quote-unquote two-front attack on the American people. It was to remind us, hey, nukes are bad, and you don't want to throw them. And then it was also a, hey, we might have to do something that we don't want to do, but we have to do it. Because I want to get into the next topic that I wanted to discuss tonight, and that was the situation with Iran. Oh, excuse me, sorry. It was the situation with Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys there?
Yep, we're there.
Okay, sorry. I phone was acting weird for a second. So right now we got a bunch of evacuation orders, mostly pertaining to non-essential personnel. But then we also have a order to the Navy to basically get out of the Persian Gulf and set up on a perimeter line outside of the Gulf in the Arabian Sea. We have civilian ships basically being told, hey, get the fuck out of the Persian Gulf. And then we have the negotiations yesterday, seemingly flatlining. But no bombs, no missiles, no nothing today. So one of two things is going to happen. You know, we're recording this on Thursday. It'll be uploaded on Saturday. So this is kind of, predictions for the next couple days. We are either going to see a massive U.S./Israeli strike on Iran, or we're going to see the Israelis go half-cocked. Now, the reason why I say that the second option is the most likely option is because of some information that has come to light. So I believe it was either last week or the week before, it was being reported that Trump dressed down Netanyahu pretty hard. Like he dressed him down thoroughly. And now the Israelis and their friends and comrades here in the United States deny this even happening. They're like, there's no evidence of that happening, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But here's the thing. That video from Tulsi Gabbard tells me, no, something happened. Something happened.
Yeah. And if you see what the response from all the neocons and all the Zionists to that video, it's like, yeah, they were all furious. How dare they say nuking someone was bad?
Yeah, seriously.
I'm going to break in and say something real quick. I had enough of these fucking Israeli spaces and these assholes and shit. We got our own country to worry about. If they want to worry about Israel so much, then they could just fucking move there.
Like, at this point, Mark Levin needs to be deported to Israel. Like, yeah, go over there and fight for them and fuck off.
Well, here's the point. Is that video tells me, because that was a professionally done video. That wasn't just something that she recorded on her phone and uploaded it to. That was a professional, studio-grade fucking video.
Yeah.
That was planned. Which tells me it was to tell not just the American people, because it was targeted towards the American people, for sure. Mm-hmm. Because it was to remind us of two things. One, Nukes are bad, and we do not want to use them. Using nukes is not a good idea. And yes, nuking somebody is a bad fucking idea. You might not want to believe it, neocons, but that's a thing. It's a bad idea. But also that the U.S. might have to do something that we don't want to do, but we might just have to do it anyways. And it's gonna suck.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. In the event that Israel does go off half-cocked, what the fuck are we going to do in regards to Israel?
Well, so we'll get into the ramifications here in a second. So you have that whole situation planned. Now, I'm gonna call somebody out by name because fuck it, I don't give a shit. But you had Stealth Medical. She was running a space right after that video fucking went live, and she was losing her fucking mind. Now, mind you, routinely, the people that visit her space, some of them quite high profile, by the way, will routinely talk about how they have contacts in the White House and in the administration, yada, yada, yada. And the day that everybody was freaking out about this, many of these people were coming in saying, I have contacts in the White House. They're saying that the administration's furious at Tulsi, blah, blah, blah. So it's over. I don't care what shade of fucking goddamn fucking white, brown, fucking red, blue, green, fucking yellow, neon fucking pink. I don't care who the fuck you are. You ain't here shit, bitch. Because guess what? Not a single fucking statement from the administration. She would have gotten her pink slip literally right after that video went live on her Twitter. Had she actually done it without being told to do it first off. So I don't care who the fuck you are. Y'all just lie. Why are you lying? Why are you lying? So yeah, no, you just a bunch of fucking lying twerps. Now, at the end of the fucking day, I believe that this was also aimed at the Israelis. I think it was a statement towards the Israelis telling them, hey, if you do this and you go half-cocked, we're done. It's over. Our partnership kaput. And the Zionists here in the United States are going to lose their fucking mind. They're going to absolutely go ballistic. And I couldn't give a shit less. Because it's like, fuck it. If Israel wants to be stupid and the U.S. is telling them not to be stupid, then fine, go ahead. Because here's the thing, and this was something I brought up in a space. Mind you, Halsey was calling Stealth out on our bullshit. He was like, nah, they're screeching and fucking doing the whole Banshee choir as hard as they fucking can. He was pissed. He was fucking livid after he left that space. But at the end of the fucking day, one of the things I brought up in his space when somebody was talking about, doing this, doing that, so on and so forth, one of the things I brought up was operational tempo.
What is that?
Do you have the pilots? Do you have the planes? And do you have the munitions? And do you have the ability to keep those planes in the air in order to conduct a rapid and very, very high-paced operation? Because the rate in which you're going to be having to drop bombs on Iran is fucking insane. You are going to have to hit so many different targets all at once in order to be able to actually do something. I don't think for even a second that Israel is going to be able to do it without being smacked in the face too. I don't think for even a second that they're going to be capable of actually defending themselves against the shit show it's going to fucking unleash.
Does Iran have the military capability to smack them back?
Yes, they do.
But do y'all remember the strike that Israel did against Saddam Hussein's nuclear factories in the 80s?
No.
Yes, but what was the difference? What was the difference between that and now?
Well, nowadays the Israelis have access to stealth aircraft for one.
That's not the point.
I fill it out for
the French reactor that the Iraqis bought was the same French reactor that the Israelis had bought. The Israelis knew how to hit it. They knew where to hit it in order to do the most damage. In the case of the Iranians, do they know where the locations are? And do they have the ability to hit them in the appropriate place in order to be able to actually to do the amount of damage that is going to be needed to put these facilities offline?
Yeah.
Well, they've been harping on this shit for going on 20 years, so I reckon that they do.
Yeah. So something I wanted to know if either of you had heard this, because it's somewhat related. You remember how some time ago Israel had been assassinating these nuclear scientists from Iran?
Yeah.
Some bit of info just was leaked. Turns out that the IEAE, or whatever that body is that governs nuclear stuff, they had leaked the name.
International Atomic Agency.
Yeah, they had leaked the names of these scientists to Mossad. It just came out over the past couple weeks.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all.
And
because at the end of the day, let me just sum it up this way. There's no information in the United Nations that can pass through the United Nations without somebody else knowing about it. Period, end of story. That's just how it works. Everybody knows everything. There's a reason why governments compartmentalize their intelligence agencies away from the United Nations. Because if there's any link between the United Nations and an intelligence agency, there are leaks between those two entities. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all. And especially with something like the International Atomic Agency or International Atomic Energy Agency, you're going to have bleeding. You're going to have information bleed. So it just is what it is, unfortunately. Hell, it's just like how, technically speaking, I'm one of the easiest people to dox in the world because I'm in several public databases because of the work I do and everything. So you can find me very easily and find all my pertinent information very easily because it's technically publicly available. Technically. And that's just the thing. At the end of the day, what is the possibility? Do the Israelis go half-cocked, or are the Americans going to strike with the Israelis? We will have to see. By Sunday, we'll know. Honestly speaking, by Sunday, I'm pretty sure we'll know. Now, how does this tie into Mexico? Because it actually does. Because here's the thing. Scheinbaum is not operating on her own. I don't believe for a second she is. I have a sneaky suspicion, due to the fact that there is a suspiciously high number of protesters and rioters in the U.S. waving Mexican flags and wearing keffiyehs. Very suspiciously high number.
Interesting mix. Mexican flags and keffiyehs.
So my question to you guys is, how much do you think Hezbollah has actually been infiltrating into Mexico, given their infiltration of South and Central America?
I wouldn't be surprised.
There's a wildfire shit in the woods. Of course they've infiltrated it.
Yeah, well, you heard how many fucking Muslim terrorists have been apprehended at the border over the past 5 years.
Yep.
There was also that guy, remember, who committed that arson attack against those Jewish people holding some hostage thing. He was illegal.
And that's the whole point. Is at the end of the day, I have a sneaky suspicion that there might be hard ties between Iran and Mexico. Now, here's the fun part about the situation with Iran is who's lighting all these fires and burning buildings down in Iran?
The Iranians? Aren't the Iranian people doing that?
Well, that's the point, is that we don't know. There are no fingerprints at all. You're going to be able to tell who the fuck agency. Like, for example, the U.S., we love bombing shit. We love planting explosives on shit. We have a fascination with C4 and Simtex that is nobody's close to even coming close to our fascination with that shit.
I love spicy putty.
Spicy buddy. But the British love creating political chaos and color revolutions.
Yep.
Mossad likes hacking shit. France, they're a little bit of us and a little bit of Mossad when they do shit. So on and so on and so on. So, but there's no fingerprints on this shit because nobody's talking about it. Nobody's acknowledging it. Nobody's actually claiming responsibility. And the Iranians haven't been blaming it. Which tells me there is a high likelihood that all these fires being lit in Iran, it's all domestic.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the consideration that maybe, just maybe, the reformist faction has finally said, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to start lighting shit on fire and blowing it up.
I wouldn't blame them, honestly. The Iranian government kinda sucks.
Yeah, true. But the point is that if the reformers are actually activated and actually committing attacks against the regime and against the mullahs, I might have some words with Israel. Be like, hey, shut the fuck up and let this play out.
Yeah.
And because I'm convinced.
I have said the same thing to those assholes, and they refuse to listen. They just got genocide the Iranians on the brain.
They have genocide everyone on the brain.
Well, I'm going to get into the specifics with that in a second, but I'm convinced that the reason why the U.S. is playing it by ear and they're taking it day by day is because they know something's playing out in Iran that they're not sharing. And that the mullahs are shitting their britches because they are like, oh shit, like, oh fuck, a shit ton of rocket fuel just fucking exploded at the port. Oh shit, one of our major power stations is on fire. Oh shit, our nuclear facility just had a fucking big fire. Oh shit, this is burning. Oh, that's burning. Oh god, what the fuck is going on?
Right. And
it's telling me that shit's happening that we do not know about, that the Iranians can't talk about because it makes them look bad, which tells me it's domestically related.
And what's the one thing that universally would rally public sentiment in the favor of the Iranian government in Iran?
Us bombing the shit out of them?
Yep. A foreign bombing campaign. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Acts of war by a foreign, arguably enemy population.
And then if all of a sudden the Israelis bomb them on their own, then at that point in time, the U.S. just rinses its hands and they'll be like, we tried. Israel, you're on your own.
I swear, it seems like the Israelis and the Mexicans are both stupid.
It's not necessarily that the Israelis are stupid. It's that they are they're in a bloodlust. Right? They've still not gotten over what happened on October 7th, and because they think they're the main characters of the world, they think now everyone around them has to die.
I'm not going to disagree with that take, but I'm also going to add to it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, and this is something that I picked up by being involved with the Israelis as much as I have been, and listening to them, and like there'll be some spaces I'll just go in, and I don't want to try to speak because I just want to listen to what they're saying. I just want to listen to what they're thinking. And the thing I've picked up on is that basically at this point in time, the Israelis want the ability to pick and choose their neighbors. You know, like for example, they're cool with the Druze. So they're cool with the Druze existing and being neighbors and whatnot. They're fine with that. The Kurds, they're cool with the Kurds. But fuck those Alawite bastards. We don't want to deal with them. So fucking get rid of them. You know, in the case of the Iranians, we don't like the fucking Iranians because they're just a bunch of fucking dirty. They're just a bunch of dirty Persians, and we just want to get rid of them. And then, hey, there's a bunch of Kurds in Iran, so we can liberate the Kurds and shit like that. Oh, by the way, Kurdistan doesn't exist. It's fucking Armenia, you fucking little schleps. Anyways. But the point is they want the ability to pick and choose their neighbors. And the problem is that's not how it fucking works. It's not how it works at all.
Mm-hmm.
And oh no, boo-hoo. Hope you brought your fucking tissues, because you're gonna be fucking crying a lot. Piss and shit yourself over there because we don't want to smell it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Israel and its currently Israel is a net benefit for the United States, for example. We, again, the financial incentive, we're getting, 3-to-1 payback on every dollar we give them. So it's a good fucking investment. But the problem is that if they decide to go half-cocked and decide to be stupid, we're not going to back them, because then at that point in time, it's like, no, you got to take it on the chin, bud. Like, what do you want us to do? Like, yeah, we'll sell you shit, but we're not going to be fighting for you. Like, if you die, you die. Like, oh well. Like, we're not investing fucking blood into this. And it's
the Goyim will not die for Jerusalem.
No, it's not even that. It's not even that. It's the pragmatic path. There's no reason for us to deploy in the defense of Israel. Just like how it wasn't in our interest to deploy back in 73, we're not going to deploy this time either. And the Europeans, it would be a net benefit for Israel to get destroyed for the Europeans, because the Europeans can come in and wheel and deal in the Middle East freely. But at the end of the day, we're not going to invest blood and treasure into Israel. It's just not going to happen. We'll give them money and fucking make money off of them. Fuck it. But it's like, oh, well, okay, well, whatever. So it's really a situation of we're just going to have to wait and see. And again, as I said, I think by Sunday we should know.
Oh, Stoner, did you see the meme I posted?
Let me check.
All right, it's right above the last thing I typed.
Japan has taught us that anything that is nuclear...
Or if Japan has taught us anything, it's that nuclear bombs are less destructive than diversity.
Well, they're not wrong.
And I also do have to say, I do have to credit the username of this person, 6 million, with their Twitter handle @real6million. What do you
Real
mean?
6 million. What the fuck?
Well, 6 million is right. If
Yes.
Japan has taught us anything, it's that a nuclear bomb is less destructive than diversity.
All right, hold on, real quick. I gotta look at something from Times of Israel.
Oh dear.
All right, so real quick, because we were just on the topic of Iran. Article from June 11th. So is that today? That's
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay. Russia says ready to remove highly enriched uranium from Iran to aid nuclear deal. Offer comes after Putin told Trump last week that Moscow was willing to help advance the negotiations on the new nuclear pact, not only diplomatically but through practical steps. So I just want to go ahead and lay this out real quick for everybody, just to kind of preface everything. So one of the ideas that Russia had initially brought to the table was that, hey, we will take custodialship of the Iranian nuclear material, and then we will give them the piecemeal amounts that they need every year in return for them not enriching to a certain amount, and we can test the uranium and make sure that it's not being enriched to certain percentages and everything. So this was a form of trust but verify. So Russia would act as a third party testing the nuclear material to make sure that the Iranians weren't enriching to, I believe it's the in order to produce a nuclear fission bomb, you need 93%. If I remember correctly, I think it's 93% is what you need in order to achieve the fission.
Something like that.
So Russia said on Wednesday it stood ready to remove highly enriched uranium from Iran and convert it into civilian reactor fuel as a potential way to help narrow U.S.-Iranian differences over the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. Tehran insists it has a right to peaceful nuclear power, but swiftly advancing uranium enrichment program has raised fears in the wider West and across the Gulf that it wants to develop a nuclear weapon. The United States is trying to broker a deal to get Iran to rein in its nuclear activities, but President Donald Trump said in an interview released on Wednesday he was less confident than a couple months ago that Iran would agree to halt enrichment. Last week, the Kremlin said President Vladimir Putin had told Trump in a phone call that he was ready to use Russia's close partnership with Iran to help advance those negotiations. On Wednesday, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, who oversees arms control and U.S. relations, told Russian media that efforts to reach a solution should be redoubled and that Moscow was willing to help in practical ways. We are ready to provide assistance to both Washington and Tehran, not only politically, but not only in the form of ideas that can be of use in the negotiation process, but also practically. For example, through the export of excess nuclear material produced by Iran and subsequent adaptation to the production of fuel for reactors. It did not make clear whether the nuclear fuel could then be returned to Iran for use in its civil nuclear energy program, which Moscow has helped develop. And yes, the reactor that the Iranians have, or one of them at least, is of a Russian build. The United States wants all of Iran's highly enriched uranium to be shipped out of the country. Tehran says it should only send out any excess amount of a ceiling that was agreed in a 2015 deal and cannot abandon it together. Now, I do want to specify this real quick. This was something Halsey fucking threw some shit my way about bringing this up, but I have done research into it and it is absolutely true. One of the main things that the Iranians are producing with their radioactive materials is not only reactor fuel, but also radiological medicines. So they are producing that stuff, which is actually a huge part of their economy, by the way. Reactor fuel and radiological medicines. Those are like, Iran is actually kind of, in a way, the Central Asia version of China when it comes to medication. It's kind of funny.
Interesting.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov on Wednesday confirmed Moscow's readiness to accept the uranium. Here is very important to say that if necessary, if the parties deem it necessary, Russia will be ready to provide such services. Russia, the world's biggest nuclear power, does not want to see Iran acquire nuclear weapons, but believes it has every right to develop its own civilian nuclear program. As a member of the 1970 Global Non-Proliferation Treaty, that any use of military force against it would be illegal. And
technically speaking, that's one of the reasons why the U.S. is very tepid about striking Iran, is because we have to. They have never been able to find a legal way to strike Iran for nuclear weapons because we cannot confirm that they have nuclear weapons. Without confirmation, the intervention portion of the non-proliferation treaty cannot be enforced. Moscow has bought weapons from Iran for its war in Ukraine and signed a 20-year strategic partnership deal with Tehran earlier this year. During his 2017-2021 term, Trump withdrew the U.S. from the landmark 2015 deal between Iran and world powers, including Russia, that had placed strict limits on Tehran's nuclear activities in exchange for sanctions relief. After Trump pulled out in 2018 and reimposed tough U.S. economic sanctions, Iran, which is sworn to Israel's destruction, breached and far surpassed the 2015 deal's limits on enrichment, reducing stocks far above what the West says is necessary for civilian energy purpose. So again, this is times of Israel, so it's going to have an anti-Iranian bent to it. So, but I do like the fact that they this is confirmation, because there were a bunch of people that were decrying, saying the Russians never made this offer, so on and so forth. But now that they're coming out and saying, yes, we made this offer, now it's like, ha, bitch, fuck off. Again, I'm gonna mention Stealth Medical again. Her space, like they said that I was bullshitting and that I didn't know anything, blah blah blah, and it's like, fuck you. Told you so. Fucking hoes.
Okay, now to circle back about the legality of striking Iran, do the Israelis really give a shit about such niceties?
No.
Well, that's the thing, is the problem for the Israelis. So the U.S. being the arbiters of international law, because they're the only ones that are capable of enforcing international law at this point in time, they have to care. The Israelis, they can say they don't care about international law. The problem is that then it gives the Europeans an excuse to attack Israel. And I'm not saying militarily, I'm saying economically. And then the U.S. has to kind of weigh, well, shit, Israel, you put yourself in a really bad position, and we really can't help you here. So it's one of those, if you do it, you're going to suffer. Because Europe would love nothing more than to go after Israel. They would love it. Mm-hmm. It'd be a great boon for them.
Yeah, the Europeans do not like Israel.
No, not at all.
Increasingly more so with their increasingly Muslim population.
Well, it's not even that. So the Israeli, for those who don't know, and again, the Israelis try to push back on me with this, but I'm like, guys, like literally, Israel was established as a British protectorate to act as a bulwark in the Middle East for British interests. The Israelis hate acknowledging this history because they think that, they fought for their independence and that they're a free and sovereign nation, yada, yada. And it's like, no, you've been a client of other nations since your inception, whether it was the British or the Americans. Like, that's been your whole thing. As a nation, the state of Israel cannot survive on its own simply from the perspective of it needs economic partners. Economically speaking, the Israelis need to be able to export things in order to bring money into the country. And the Europeans have been using the Israeli courts as a way to control Israel for years now. And, I point this out to the Israelis. It's like, you wonder why your courts are as fucked as they are. It's because they're Europhilic pieces of shit. Your president's office tends to be pretty pro-American. The courts tend to be pretty pro-EU. And then your Senate, I forget what they call it off the top, the Knesset.
The Knesset tends to be incredibly fucking chaotic, which, welcome to Jewish politics, everybody. Like, they're it's fucking insane. They literally, like, they make fun of themselves for it, actually, funny enough. They make jokes about, like, how, you know, like, oh, we have 2 options, but we sit and we come up with 7 more options or whatever the fuck, you know. They fucking sit and talk about shit. You know, a discussion that should take 5 minutes turns into an hour. You know, that kind of shit. Yeah. Jews are infamous for this shit. But the point is at the end of the day, the U.S. has control of the president's office, generally speaking, and then the EU has control of the courts, and then the Knesset is just a chaotic piece of shit. Well, it's like, that's not being a sovereign nation. Just like how our sovereignty here in the U.S. was being defiled by the fact that we had no control over our financial or over our fiscal and monetary policy here in the U.S. Our monetary policy was being controlled by the EU. Our fiscal policy was being controlled by people that were pro-EU, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So our sovereignty was not complete whatsoever. It's just been within the past 8 months, to be completely frank, and frankly, it's only been, you know, for the past 5 months that we've truly been free from Europe. And this is why Europe's been freaking out like they have been for the past fucking 5 months since Trump took office. Yeah, the Kurds. Okay, so real quick, just because I wanna do some live updates of sentiments. The Kurds are now talking about engaging in combat in Iran. And then there are supposedly reports of explosions and shit in Iran, which, you know, again, have no idea what's going on. From Axios, actually, U.S. told Israel it won't participate in an Israeli strike on Iran.
Oh, interesting.
Hold on. The Trump administration told the Israeli government the U.S. won't be directly involved in any Israeli military strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. 2 U.S. sources and an Israeli source familiar with this, with those discussions, tell Axios. Officials in the U.S., Israel, and Iran are all preparing for a scenario where the U.S.-Iran nuclear talks collapse. Israel orders waves of strikes on Iran, and Iran retaliates by attacking Israel and U.S. bases in the region, possibly all within the next week or so. President Trump confirmed Thursday that Israeli strikes might very well happen, so I'm guessing there was a meeting at some point that he did, or a press conference that he did recently within the past few hours. Privately, the administration has informed Israel that it would be a solo mission, not a joint operation, at least in terms of bombing and other offensive kinetic activity. Sources did not say whether the U.S. would provide assistance in terms of intelligence or logistics, such as aerial refueling. The U.S. would almost certainly help Israel defend itself from from Iranian retaliation, as it has in the past with Iranian attacks. While Israel could cause significant damage to Iran's nuclear program, an Israeli operation would be more limited than one involving U.S. participation. Israel's Air Force doesn't have B-2 or B-52 bombers that can carry massive bunker buster bombs that would likely be needed to hit Iran's Fordo underground uranium enrichment facility. That's the enrichment facility that's built into a mountain.
Yeah.
Israel would likely attempt to repeatedly strike the same targets over the course of multiple days in order to damage Iran's underground sites. Yeah, so it looks like basically around noon or so there might have been oh no, it looks like Axios picked up the story from Wall Street Journal.
So Wall Street Journal. Fuck. I'm trying to remember who links back to Wall Street Journal the most. I want to say Wall Street Journal is MI6, but that might be Mossad linked. Yeah, because New York Times links to MI6, Wall Street Journal links to Mossad, Washington Post links to CIA. Sorry, I'm trying to remember which agencies feed information to what outlets. Blah, 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 blah. Iran has vowed to strike U.S. targets in the region in the event of any attack on its nuclear program. U.S. is in the process of withdrawing diplomats and military families who could be in harm's way. So these are the non-essential personnel that are being evacuated from the embassies and shit. Pentagon canceled on Thursday a planned visit to Israel this weekend by CENTCOM Commander General Eric Kurilla. Okay, so they apparently there was supposed to be a visit by CENTCOM to Israel, and they have canceled that. Yeah, I forget who Axios were links to. The White House and the Israeli embassy in Washington declined to comment. Yeah. Yeah, something fucking happened between Trump and Netanyahu, for sure. Trump told reporters Thursday that he doesn't want to say an Israeli strike is imminent, but it might happen. Trump stressed he wants to avoid conflict, but said that will require concessions that Iran has been unwilling to make. He added that so long as there's a chance of a deal, he doesn't want Israel to do anything to blow it. Trump's remarks urging Israel not to attack while talks are taking place wasn't coordinated with the Israeli government, according to the U.S. source familiar. Israel previously assured the White House it would not move unless the talks fail. Israeli officials say the Israeli Defense Forces are on high alert and preparing to strike Iran quickly if the White House envoy Steve Witkoff's diplomacy fails this weekend. Witkoff will meet Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Arashi? No, I don't know how to fucking say that word or say that name. On Sunday in Oman to discuss Iran's response to the U.S. nuclear deal proposal. Okay, so the strike will definitely happen after Sunday. So rewind to when I was saying we don't know if it'll happen today or tomorrow or what. It will definitely happen next week. If they have another meeting on Sunday, then it will definitely happen next week. If this falls through. The meeting in the U.S. Assessment of whether there's still a path to a deal could determine whether diplomacy continues or conflict begins. So yes, at this point in time, it looks like the U.S. will not be involved in any action the Israelis take. Good luck, have fun.
Good. It's high time the U.S. distances itself from Israel a bit. To the chagrin of all the Zionists and neocons, but I repeat myself, the country over.
Well, here's the thing. And again, as I've stated previously, Israel is a net benefit. Now, some of these people, especially the Zionists and especially the evangelicals, they believe that Israel is, the chosen people, blah, 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 so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that clouds their practical and pragmatic judgment. So at the end of the day, those people I tend to disregard anyways, because it's like, well, no, you've got a bent that you can't get past. And so, frankly speaking, I don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm grounded to reality. I'm here on Earth. I care that, that the atmosphere doesn't catch fire and I have to deal with, trying to find a place where me and my family can survive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I care about.
All right.
Also, I do want to do a discussion with you guys. We can do it as like a small side episode. in regards to Israel, but that's just it's something that I was reading that I'm like, I wonder where this leads. I need to do more research on it, though.
Right. Yeah, we definitely can do that. Though, real quick, as we are getting close to time to wrap this up, there's one other thing I wanted to ask you, unrelated to our two main topics, but I wanted to see if you've also noticed. Have you noticed that the whole situation in Ukraine has kind of slowed down over the past 2 weeks or so? There's been a lot.
No, it has not.
It hasn't? Or,
no,
there's
it has
or maybe
not.
not 2 weeks, but I haven't seen much movement from any. Like, I haven't heard much territory changing.
The reason why you're not hearing anything is because shit's happening so fast. Have you been paying attention? Okay, so are you watching the DPA videos that I'm uploading?
Some of them.
I'm putting in. Okay, so if you notice, things are happening across the line, and there's movement every single day. It's just a case of Ukraine is that big of a country. Like, if you measure, I can't remember how big Ukraine is in relation to. Hold on. Square miles. Hold on. Ukraine, Texas is only 15% larger than Ukraine. It's only a difference of 35,000 square miles. So you're talking a massive fucking country. Remember how big Texas is, and then you realize how big Ukraine is. So you have literally a massive country that they're having to fight through. But there's movement on the line at all times. And positions are falling apart as we speak right now. Like, there's probably 20 different assaults going on right now that we'll hear about either tomorrow or the next day.
So is that why they haven't really been updating the maps as much? Is just too much is going on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dude, fucking Ukraine, and also, mind you, don't take the Ukrainian sourcing at face value whatsoever. Because here's the thing, is that there are several villages that have been confirmed in the Sumy region to be under the control of the Russians, and they've been under the control of the Russians for a while. And the Ukrainians just updated the maps like last week. Like, they have not been updating the line whatsoever. So, like, there's this weird spot. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, because there's apparently the mapping community has a funny name for it. But there's this weird spot on the line that the Ukrainians refuse to acknowledge it being captured, but there's been geolocation data of that location being captured fucking like 3 or 4 weeks old. So it's just a case of shit is so fluid right now, it's unfucking real. So that's why you're not noticing it. That's the problem. Is everything is changing so quickly that you're not noticing the changes, because unless you're watching map updates every, DPA puts out 2 videos a day basically.
Okay.
Maybe even 3.
Sorry to interrupt. Breaking news: Israel has just attacked Iran. There are now jets over Iran. Just like a few minutes ago.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Oh shit!